Hello and welcome to Uncanny Book Club. I'm Isaac Baderspiel, and joining me as always is my co-host Adam Ward.
It's me.
Now in 3D.
Oh, that would have been terrible to watch.
3D Mario or?
Like a 3D movie version of Mario.
What's the last 3D movie you watched?
Coraline, maybe?
Not a terrible one, probably. I think I watched Clash of the Titans in 3D, and it was a massive disappointment.
I remember when that movie came out, and I was very excited about it because, like, Greek mythology
the trailer was
very
sick.
Yeah, it was super cool. Yeah, and then it just kind of a letdown.
To this day, it's probably the most disappointed I've ever been. Maybe in anything ever.
The biggest waste of theater money that you've ever done?
Well, and it was 3D too, so I probably blew like $20 on that thing. That was a lot of money back then.
And at the time, it was every film, pretty much. Like they would have a regular version you could see for anybody who wasn't going to movies back in like the mid 2000s. But every film was, here's an extra pair of glasses. Now, as somebody who wears glasses regularly, this was very annoying and I did not enjoy it.
Not ideal.
Especially when it wasn't, for the most part, really good. They didn't really add a whole lot to the viewing experience beyond,
it was terrible.
The few times, often in like an animated film where they could really lean into it a little bit better, right? Like it doesn't need to feel real because it's animated. Whereas if you're, seeing Clash of the Titans and the Krakens coming at you, it's going to look a bit wonky.
Did you trick yourself into believing that the 3D on the 3DS was a good thing?
I think I always tried to use it, and then eventually I just stopped.
And then your brain hurt too much, so you had to turn
After
it off.
a while, it just messed with your mind.
It really does drain the eyes. It was impressive. I wouldn't call it good.
It definitely was innovative and something that we've never seen since, and I think that speaks a lot.
It would be funny when you would try to be playing a video game, and if the little slider that controlled the 3D intensity was just like slightly on, and it would take a while for it to register, like why are things just like a little weird, and why do my eyes and my brain hurt?
It's all just a little off, that uncanny valley of it just not being correct.
Oh boy.
Well,
rest in peace 3DS.
For better or worse, I still have mine.
I traded mine like 2 years ago for an iPad so that I could read comic books.
I mean, that's a good reason.
Here we are.
Yeah, here we are. It paid off.
It worked out for the best.
Well,
speaking of working out for the best, how about these two crazy kids in love? We'll have to kick off issue 174 talking about Scott and Madelyn.
Yeah, romance is in the air, and some of it is going to work out, maybe.
Probably.
Some of it is weird.
Issue 174 begins with Scott taking Madelyn into space to watch an Earthrise on the Starjammer. They share a kiss before being interrupted by Corsair and Hepzibah. We see that Carol has decided to join the Starjammer's ranks. Charles is continuing his physical therapy, and Lilandra reveals that there is a physical issue keeping him from walking. They don't explain what it is. She also says that she must return to stand against Deathbird and asks Charles to come with her. He feels that he must stay for the X-Men and the New Mutants. He also tells Lilandra of his worries over Scott and Madelyn. He then reveals that she is one of the few humans whose thoughts are closed to his powers. But it's not that weird to him. Logan breaks through the walls of his ex's place and demands to know why she called off the wedding. We see that the Silver Samurai is with Mariko and has been named her heir. She refuses to elaborate on the whys, and Logan storms off after returning the honor sword of Clan Yoshida. Kitty interrupts Peter's painting and means to show off her powers to bring them both to Storm's attic. She surprises him with a kiss both before and after they arrive to the attic, but Storm interrupts the two. Her once green space is now minimalist and devoid of any plants. We learn that Kurt is actually the X-Men's official medic, and he's tending to Rogue after her injuries in Japan. Later, we see Scott and Maddie aboard a plane. She's on the job and flying passengers, and learn that Scott has proposed and the two are engaged now. Scott goes back to check on the passengers, and we see a familiar priest who says Scott dropped something. He hands him a picture of Jean from her Greek vacation back when the two thought each other dead. He's disturbed and returns to the cabin. That evening, we see Madelyn returning home in the form of Jason Wingard inside having a smoke and laughing, but completely hidden to her. Scott pulls off a pretty bad move of asking Madelyn, his now fiancée, if she's the reincarnation of his dead fiancée, Phoenix, and she decks him. He manages to put on a spare pair of glasses and goes after her, wanting to talk. We see a dark form emerge saying, "The time for talk, lover, is over," and he's hit with the Dark Phoenix's powers. So, what's the first note that you have written down? I'm just curious.
Let's see. My first note is, nice seeing Carol joining the Starjammers. It's the most interested I've been in seeing what happens to this team.
Pretty good. I've got Scott moves on fast, but when you know, you know. It just seems very sudden.
Yeah, I mean they're moving fast, but I guess for Scott, this is my assumption here, is that because Madelyn resembles Jean in so many ways, and their histories have been close enough, and there's a lot of happenstance, right, with the connection between the Phoenix event in space and her plane crash. And so I think he's internally combining the two of them together, right? And we kind of see that come to a head here, although it's, with the manipulation of Jason.
Mm-hmm.
But everybody is having this feeling of deja vu with Madelyn. And Chris is very cheeky about it in this issue. And I thought that really came out during Xavier speaking about Madelyn and her being a rare human that can sidestep his psychic abilities. And it was very odd for Charles to just underplay it, because this seems like a big deal. It becomes a major plot point.
I mean, he does say it's, it happens, but it's pretty rare for someone without powers. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge.
Yeah, and that to me felt, and I made a note of this, that it feels in a way like they weren't exactly sure what they wanted to do. This is how I felt in the moment reading this.
Mm-hmm.
It kind of felt a bit like, hey, we're kind of laying these breadcrumbs,
keeping our options open,
but we're keeping our options open, and we don't know which way we're going to go here. But obviously, when we get to the next issue and a lot of things start unraveling, I think this is like fine. Like I'm glad it wasn't the other way around.
That's like, yes, I am Jean, returned to life, but I've taken up as a pilot.
Yeah, I'm happy that by the end of this, I'm going to call them 3 issues, since the next one is like a extra large.
A double.
It's a double. So in the next issue, we do kind of see Scott make a big character development, and we see the framework being put in place to say, like, no, she's not the Phoenix. And this is just Jason Wingard being a complete prick and just incredibly petty, which I think makes him stand out incredibly well
for sure
among the various villains that exist for the X-Men. For me, when I think about all of the major players that we've kind of come across over the last, pretty much like since Chris has been writing, classic villains like Magneto have been like very soft in presence. Like he's been in some stories, but hasn't like been a overly played villain.
Yeah, and nothing has felt super, well, I guess some stuff has felt a little personal. He did go out of his way to, I mean, I guess the whole baby thing was pretty personal, but and that sticks out, and I think that plays to it, where it's like, Jason is sticking out more, or is pretty memorable because he's choosing to get hyper petty, and that's just what we need to see in more villains, just extreme pettiness and dickery.
Yeah, and I think when we look at scope too, Jason in these stories stands out so much because he's coming at them in such a personal way versus like a world-ending event. Like this is all very in the shadows, and
He has low aspirations as far as supervillains go.
and yet, like when I think of my two favorite my favorite story that we've read, the Proteus arc, and Jason plays an absolutely key role in that story. And that's when we first start seeing him kind of interfering with Jean and starting that manipulation. You know, we've known that Jason Wingard's been kind of pulling the strings here amongst various characters that we've seen for a little bit now, but to finally now kind of get this reveal that will come in the next issue is very fulfilling, and I think puts Mastermind in a very high category for X-Men villains, especially the ones that we've seen. Because when we look at the Brotherhood of Evil Mutants, it's not very impactful.
We haven't had much screen time yet.
Yeah. Same can be said about like Shaw and the Hellfire Club. They're kind of, okay, yeah, they're there. Same thing.
We need to see more of it.
There are a lot of memorable characters and villains that they've faced over the last 20 years at this point, right? This is like the 20th anniversary issue?
The 175 is the 20th anniversary.
Of the X-Men, not just
of the
Chris.
Of the X-Men. No. It's probably like 5 years, though, for Chris at this point. Like at least, huh?
If not more?
8 years.
That's a long time for somebody to be writing a comic book. Like almost unheard of nowadays.
And he's only halfway done.
Sorry, did you say we're halfway done already?
Well, in terms of years, not in terms of like issues.
His run, okay, all right, I gotcha.
Because for a while, it was like every other month. At a certain point, it might be twice a month.
What are your thoughts on Xavier's situation right now?
Seems like they are trying to tease something, but they're being very like slow about it. You know, she's wondered for at least a couple issues, like maybe it's a physical thing that, you know, every time he tries to walk, like his body should physically be able to do it now, but it causes him psychic pain, basically. I don't know. It seems like we're venturing into another will he, won't he leave the X-Men kind of situation, it seems, where she's always trying to get him to go into space and be like, you can be my cool king consort, emperor consort person as I rule a large portion of galaxy or whatever.
So I found it funny that a lot of what Charles talks about here, I think parents can relate to a lot, right? He's talking about how he fears what the future is going to be like for his children, the X-Men. And, you know, the threats that they face are growing and getting stronger every day. And he worries what that's going to be like for them. And he's concerned about what's happening with Scott, rightfully so. As we could see, he has a lot of things going on, albeit he is being manipulated by Mastermind. So not entirely his fault. Nonetheless, Charles is, in this case, trying to paint a picture that he can't leave because he needs to be there for the X-Men and for the New Mutants. But we never see him actually doing anything with them.
To be fair, we're not currently reading the New Mutants.
Is Charles more involved in what's happening over there?
I feel like he's got to be. Like, they're students at his school. They're minors, unlike most of the X-Men. I feel like he hopefully has a bigger role in those comics than he does in the regular X-Men, because regular X-Men, they don't really need him so much. He kind of just butts himself into the situation and occasionally is very helpful. Very occasionally.
Kitty did make a comment in this issue that she's been working with Charles to test the limits of her power. And that's how we see her.
It would be nice if they showed him being useful like that.
Right?
Like if we got to see him being that mentor and, you know, helping everyone unlock their full potential.
Just another off-screen disappointment. Just like Scott getting engaged. Why couldn't that have just been a panel when they were in space?
Well, both good. It was fun to do like the little, because it was kind of shocking. And I mean, when I check out the cover of the issue, I can kind of see like, okay, it looks like they're showing off like a ring in this image. But yeah, I'm surprised it didn't happen on the ship. Maybe Corsair ruined it.
It just feels like if we're going to make it an important part of the story, maybe we should show it.
Yeah.
Right? Like, I'm just being critical of it, but I think it's a miss for us to not have it.
I'm not super bothered.
Well, I'm not going to lose sleep over it, but it would have been just nice.
They did have space.
Maybe this is a situation where in a couple of issues, we'll see it.
Like we'll do go back in time and view what it was.
Maybe we'll get like a flashback or something. Because we do see in the next issue, Scott's grandparents are there. They live.
When I read that, I thought you were just going to be chuffed to bits over that.
I was so happy when I saw it. And I love that his granddad was like, he's just as handsome as his father. Of course, there's just like sitting there in the background.
Yeah, whatever, Pops.
Oh, I love it.
Busy doing space stuff. So I thought Kurt and Rogue had a nice little conversation.
We were critical around Rogue's insertion, like how they went about doing it. It was just kind of like, I think the best possible situation here is for us just to add her to the team. That way you guys can watch her and she's an extra set of hands.
Keep your friends close and your enemies closer. That's what Chuck says.
Absolutely. And I think having Logan in that last set of issues go through a very emotional situation where he had to give her his healing factor and, she was stood by him and helped defend the situation. So, I think Kurt was really kind of, showing Rogue that things can be good.
Yeah, and I thought it was nice to see, another member of the team showing a little bit more trust and compassion toward her. Like, I feel like Logan's choice to save her by giving her a little bit of powers probably went a long way with Nightcrawler, since him and Wolverine are kind of besties.
Yeah, and I think Logan, too, is going to be in a very different mindset. Before we started recording, we were talking about how, by the end of these two issues, we're kind of going to be going into a clean slate, so to speak, where we've kind of wrapped up this story and, we'll probably get, if there was ever going to be a number one, it would probably be here. So with that in mind, I think let's go read the Wolverine mini, because I think whatever happens in there is really going to start feeding Wolverine going forward, right? I think Chris has laid the foundational element of who Logan is now going forward based off of this little lore dump he does with Japan. And we've seen what that ends up with, this Mariko stabbing him in the heart figuratively.
Emotionally.
But I think we're going to start seeing Logan going forward be very different. And the reason I say that is I was just kind of perusing earlier one of the issues for the Wolverine mini, and this quote stood out to me. So basically what happens is in this issue, I think it's like the 4th or 5th issue, Logan has a dream. And in this dream, there's a warrior, and it says he tried to find the love of his life, Mariko, the daughter of the emperor, blah, blah, blah. And so Mariko says, it says my love is for a man, not a beast clad in human form who knows nothing of honor or duty or any of the beliefs I hold most dear. The dreams end with the warrior, and it says, although he lives, the proud warrior is in truth no more. So I think that paints a picture of everything that kind of happened to him. And he has this dream about it before we get it in the pages of the X-Men. So I think this is a great time for us to go back and read it, because I've heard good things about it. So, and the Magic mini was pretty good.
Minis are fun.
So I think it's a great time for us to do a little jump back to Wolverine, baby.
Let's do it to it.
I just wanted to very quickly comment on the awkward Kitty Peter situation that they keep kind of trying to force here. Yeah, I'm kind of over it, man. Like, just kind of like let it be and move on.
I think they've decided that Peter should be younger and Kitty should be older, and they're just going to push them together. But yeah.
But it does lead us to, I think, like a very interesting development, which is Storm and everything that has happened in her room, where this once vibrant green kind of oasis that existed there in the attic is now
kind of a bummer.
It's very minimalist, I think is like
it's
a very
like
polite way of saying it.
Like a really shitty couch, like a metal coffee table, a sad lamp. I mean, she can at least still see the sky, but like,
she's
not the best.
She's really become a bit of an edgelord in these two issues. She does a lot of self-reflecting about how she's being a little more brutal than she's used to being.
Pretty sick outfit, though.
It's an awesome outfit.
Issue 175 is a double-sized 20th anniversary issue. The X-Men are cutting down a tree when a gigantic firebird appears in the sky above them, and Scott is dropped from it. He says that Dark Phoenix has returned, and the professor summons them all to the study. The team gathers, and Charles tries to scan for Dark Phoenix to confirm, but the system electrocutes him, and Nightcrawler takes him to the infirmary. Kitty checks out the machine and concludes that it has been messed with, and it reversed Professor X's powers into himself. Phoenix then emerges from Cyclops, and he collapses. It's an easy fight for her as she toys with the X-Men. She leaves, and the team starts reaching out to allies. First, they see the Starjammers fall into Phoenix, followed by the Avengers. Nightcrawler scans Scott, but says he's fine. We see Scott's spirit emerge from his body, though, and he heads towards the light. He's rejected by a familiar form, and his mother sends him back. He awakens and realizes there isn't a scratch on him. He figures out that Mastermind must be behind this and means to warn the team. Jason is ready, though, and the X-Men all perceive Scott to be the Dark Phoenix and attack him. Scott leads them to the danger room and overrides the system to create the Savage Land. We see Jason having a talk with Maddie while creating an illusion of hell. He lore dumps on her, explaining what happened to him and why he wants revenge on the X-Men. Back in the danger room, Scott starts picking the X-Men off one by one. He knocks out Rogue and leads her to Professor X, forcing her to absorb his powers. With her new abilities, Rogue confirms that Scott is actually Scott. But Mastermind once again summons the Phoenix's form. The illusion can't hurt Scott now that he's figured it out, but he's shot instead. Logan realizes that Mastermind must be in the room with them, and Storm releases a deadly tempest. The X-Men beg her to stop, saying that she's killing them. She eventually stops, and Wolverine tracks down the now waterlogged Jason, but Storm stops him from killing him. Madelyn is face down in the water, but Scott is able to resuscitate her. In the epilogue, we see Scott laying flowers down on Jean's grave. He says, "I loved you, Jean. I love Madelyn. I'm glad she isn't you," and says goodbye. Later that afternoon, the X-Men and friends gather for the second wedding in a short period of time. This one has a much happier ending, though, and we see Scott and Madelyn kissing, now man and wife.
Congratulations. I'm sure it's going to last.
For sure. I've definitely never seen a different instance of Scott saying goodbye at Jean's grave and that he loves another woman.
Pours one out for Jean. Peace. See you later.
Here we are again. Who'd have thought?
I really had to wrap my mind around how Jason's powers worked because...
Illusions, Michael.
Yeah. And I guess like the Scott example is the best way of looking at it, that once you figure out it's an illusion, it just doesn't work on you anymore. Is that kind of the...
Yeah, hard to trick the brain, though, to, ignore.
Yeah. Kind of like Mysterio's powers, or like what he does. Like, I don't think he has powers, but...
Similar.
Like what he does in terms of illusions. So I was like, oh my gosh, how did the Starjammers also get attacked and the Avengers? And then it took me a long time to realize that was just part of the illusion.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it it would have been funnier if, Google was invented and, the X-Men were just like, are the Avengers okay? And Jason just had to sit there like creating a bunch of just like fake news Avengers are dead.
Well, I guess it would just
But
be.
yeah, we saw the Captain.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm surprised we didn't include Beast. I'm surprised Beast isn't back in the X-Men, actually. I've been expecting him. I have no idea when it happens.
It is something that happens, though?
I mean, we know he's going to rejoin at some point.
Yeah, I
He's
guess.
like part of the 90s team.
Yeah. That's not Chris at that point, is it?
Not really, no. But maybe. Hard to say.
All right, we'll find out. So was Scott's outer body experience also part of the hallucination? Or was that like
No, I think that was just like his spirit giving up.
But then his mom comes, which was very touching to see, and I love that for Scott. He truly is Mr. X-Man because he handles the rest of the team with ease, pretty much, and almost single-handedly stops Mastermind.
That's basically what I have down. I wrote another fine example of Scott is the X-Man. He's got a plan for every situation and pretty easily takes out the entire X-Men team. He planned ahead for this. He built like the little override into the danger room just in case he would ever need it.
I liked when he handled Nightcrawler because he knew that he likes to be in, poof around up in the top of the room. And he was just like, I'm going to just kind of scan the room and I'll know he's going to pop out at some point and hit him.
He's like Batman in a way. Batman has plans to stop every member of the Justice League. Scott has plans to stop every member of the X-Men, apparently.
Yeah. I mean, you train with these people all the time, so you're going to learn their strengths and weaknesses.
So we've talked a bit about Jason is a good villain because he's petty and he brings more of a sense of realism, or I guess just like a more enjoyable agenda to read. We've had a lot of buildup for this. He's been popping up here and there, messing with different people. The X-Men have been his puppets for a little bit. He's been, giving Logan a real hard time. When we kind of got into it, I got to say that I did expect a little bit more out of him. He did a really good job of messing behind the scenes. It doesn't seem like maybe his big Phoenix reveal was as well planned out as it could have been. Like they kind of just like stop him,
So I think it's a few different factors. Number one, and they kind of hint at this, Storm is a bit of a wild card.
She's nuts.
So I don't think you can plan for what she did in
fair,
essentially unleashing a hurricane inside of a room, right? So it's
and to give more context to it, we do get a little tidbit of information where Rogue, while still having the professor's powers, notes that Aurora was ready to kill Mastermind if necessary, including sacrificing the X-Men to get it done. So very different from prior Storm.
Edgelord.
Yeah. She kind of swung from one extreme to another, but I think it's, it's okay good for her leadership role, because she's acknowledging that to be a good leader, she can't, stick to that old oath, that old life she was living. She's got to be ready to cross some lines in certain situations.
I also think it's cleverly placed based on how much Chris writes Storm around her connection to nature. And I talked about this in our last episode. But
probably. I haven't finished editing it, but it'll probably make it.
So I at least partially, if not entirely, touch on this big Storm development arc that plays out. But the point of all of it is just how Storm, prior to this transformation into who she is now, was like calm and level-headed and was more like a drizzle, and it was controlled. And now she is wild and free to just be a tempest is how she references it. And how she would never have done this before, but now violent weather comes easy. So I can see Chris really kind of layering those things in there because it's all relevant to Storm and her power set and the inspiration for the weather. So that's factor number 1 is Storm. Factor number 2 is, I think, obviously he wasn't anticipating Cyclops to survive. So I think that threw a bit of a wrench in his plan. And number 3, I think Jason is just like, he is good at being in the shadows. That's where he's strong. But as soon as he
illusion-based powers,
as soon as he is physically confronted, it's pretty much over. Like he's a glass cannon in a way.
Yeah.
So
he needs an evil team, maybe some sort of club he could join.
Well, will they welcome him back at this point? He did basically go after them in some capacity.
You know, I feel like that's pretty unresolved at this point. What's going on with that? That's what I'm leaving this feeling a little, like what's going on? What's going on with Emma, the rogue, Shaw? Like, what were his plans there? I feel like there's a lot left unresolved. And you know what's going on with Mariko too? There's so much like gas left in the tank on this mystery that it feels weird. And I mean, we don't know what comes in like the next issue or the issue after that, but it doesn't feel like we're going to get answers super immediately.
So
it's a little unsatisfying.
I feel you on some of those. I was thinking about the Sebastian Shaw situation of it all because
the Shaw of it all.
Like Shaw was looking out for himself. So when their kind of plan to deal with the X-Men fell apart, he just kind of went on his way and left the others to fend for themselves. So to me, him going after Emma was his indirect way of going after Shaw. And him laughing in the tunnels was just like his calling card, basically, to maybe just hit home to Shaw that it was him, and then he just, left.
Possibly.
Because I have to assume,
kind of sucks for Emma.
Like nothing else. Nothing else was implied to have happened, and you're right. We haven't seen anything since. So maybe this was like a way, and we'll see. Maybe it was a way for them to kind of reset the whole situation with Emma, because she was kind of out of the loop, right? Like she went to go back to doing her school thing, and wasn't really around with Shaw anymore. And there was a bunch of weird stuff that happened with her. So maybe, and hopefully this will be a bit of a reset on how they can better navigate Emma Frost going forward. My wishful thinking. So I gotta make a big observation. Sean Cassidy is alive. He's alive, my man.
That's actually my last note that I have down. We finally saw Sean Cassidy followed by 5 exclamation points.
That is so funny. My final note was also OMG, Sean Cassidy is alive. 1 exclamation
kind of the
mark.
big takeaway from the issue, really.
And he's still with Moira, which is great.
He's looking rough though.
It's I mean,
the smoking.
He looks like a retiree.
A few of these characters are drawn a little rough looking.
It's nice to see that. Oh my God, is it Lalandra? Lalandra was able to put off going back to dealing with her sister and to come to Scott's wedding.
Well,
priorities.
Presumably, it was very quick.
Oh, you think like that already happened?
No.
Oh, the wedding.
Like this wedding happened fast. Does it say how long the time jump has been? Yeah, there's no real sense of how much time has passed. Well, no, we know it's recent because Logan makes a comment of like, "Hey, maid of honor again. Better luck this time."
And the Starjammer is also trying to leave.
Yeah. Yes. So the wedding happens very quickly.
Yeah. Better luck this time.
Almost as quick as the engagement.
Yeah. They do 48-hour turnaround.
He looks so grumpy when he's with in the image with Carol. It's
Yes,
nice that
yeah.
they went to the wedding together. They seem like great friends.
I had the exact same thought. I really wish we could have seen more of it. And maybe we will. Who knows?
Yeah, she feels a little too overpowered right now to be bumming around with him in like a duo comic, but I mean that would be like a good mini, just Wolverine and Carol doing some covert ops stuff.
Ooh, what if they did that but in space?
Ooh, space ops.
Oh, that'd be cool. You'd have to get like Logan a special space outfit.
They could pretend to be bird people and infiltrate the Shi'ar and stop Deathbird.
Mm.
And then Lilandra can stay on Earth and help Charles walk again. It kind of felt like she was like blackmailing him, like, oh. I mean, she was like, too bad I won't be here to see it, but it kind of was more like, if you ever want to walk again, you come with me to space.
Yeah. Man, I really want to know if Charles is actually doing stuff with the New Mutants. I really hope so.
He's got to be.
I really do.
Should I start reading it?
Maybe hey, if anybody here listening wants us to start doing the New Mutants, you let us know. Comment and tell us. Now I need to know. Well, the cover for this volume has a floating, ethereal-looking Charles Xavier face, so
spooky.
Bodes well.
Do you want to hit me with some overall thoughts?
Yeah, I think overall, these were two good issues. You know, I think the first issue we looked at carried a lot of character development, really kind of hit home the state that Logan's kind of in with his series of events with Thab in Japan. We see this budding romance between Peter and Kitty. We get edgy Storm and, you know, Kurt and Rogue are kind of bonded. And of course, we get, you know, this story that's playing out with Jason taking revenge on the X-Men systematically and just with so much pettiness. It's, I really liked that part of it. And I don't know that I was ever super familiar with Mastermind prior to us reading these issues, like all of them involving him. And I think this really, to me, cements Mastermind as one of the best villains and one that is probably very underrated. And so I think this big gambit that he played out and, you know, the monologue he gives ultimately kind of detailing what happened to him and why he's taking revenge. And, you know, he's willing to, the irony that she just happens to also look like Jean Grey was just, you know, the cherry on the cake. And I am questioning why we're moving so fast on this romance, but whatever. It is what it is. I'm curious to see kind of where things are going to go from here. As I said, I think this is a good turning point for the X-Men and a logical step for them to probably mature them up a little bit going forward. I think that's, you know, we've added a lot of depth to these characters when we look at, you know, everything that's happened with Logan, and I'm looking forward to getting into the Wolverine mini, and I'm excited to talk to you about it. And I hope our listeners also enjoy and get a chance to look at it. And I'm curious to see kind of like how Storm's going to continue to develop as a leader and how this edgy kind of persona is going to play out. And, you know, this new dynamic with Rogue, because they've really kind of, I think, made her power set become like a very unique aspect of storytelling, with them kind of being able to have her use the various members of the team's powers for things that would otherwise be impossible to do. So I think overall for me, looking at the two issues, this is probably like an 8. It was very solid. I like the character development overall, and I'm kind of excited to see where things go.
Yeah, for me, pretty good action, good resolution. Also noted the good character bits, insights into the thoughts of the different characters. Surprised at how quickly we've moved on to man and wife. And just wondering, like, are we done now? Like, is Scott done being like, what is the connection between her and Jean and the Phoenix? But what about the Phoenix? You know, unsure is that all kind of wrapped up now? A little bit of setup, decent amount of putting a cap on different strings. kind of hope we dig into some of those lingering threads, but who's to say? But feel like we're at a pretty good jumping off point for future stories. 7 out of 10?
Very fair. Excited to see where things go. And hopefully we can get a bit of payoff from some of these changes.
That does it for this episode of Uncanny Book Club. Thanks for listening, and we hope to see you next episode where we'll discuss issues 1 through 4 of Wolverine.
Later, Gator.
Thanks for tuning in to this episode of Uncanny Book Club. If you enjoyed this podcast, don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, or share with a friend.